Hello, everybody. Welcome to Your Awakening. My name is Daniel Lovett. You're about to enjoy a conversation I had with Aaron. I wanted to actually address something that I brought up to Aaron, and I was not presenting the complete picture, and it became all the more clear to me this morning as I was discussing this topic with my wife. I'm like, why don't we talk about this more often? And what I'm referring to is the intricacies of the gospel. You know, one of my favorite movies that portrays something to me of the gospel is What Dreams May Come. And you'll hear me talk about it a lot, I'm sure. Where Robin Williams' character in the film, he goes to his wife who's in this miserable, hellish environment and basically tries to woo her to believe again and to come with him into the realms of glory and bliss and joy and childlikeness and wonder and all this stuff. And so I see Jesus in that role of just being with us, sitting with us in our darkness, saying, I'm here with you for as long as it takes. I'm not going anywhere. And this has meant the world to me. You know, and so I framed it up recently, and even in this talk with Aaron, about like, he's saying, Father, you know, if you won't accept them, you know, if you want me, you have to accept them, kind of thing. And it really pits us against the Father. It reveals, this is what it revealed for me, was there a lingering misunderstanding about what the gospel really is? Yes, actually. That the Father sent Jesus into the world. You know what I mean? Like, it was always the Father's will to rescue his children and to say, my arms are open, run right in, you know. That picture of a loving Heavenly Papa, you know, and that was kind of skewed in my mind when it's like, well, Father, you have to accept him, and if you want me, you know, like, obviously, you want me, right? Yeah, Jesus would say, well, you have to take them. As if Father's ashamed of that soul in darkness. You know, as if Father's heart is pitted against that confused child of his. You know, and I think that's what it's revealing in me. Like, I'm confused even to the depths of and extravagance of the Father's love. So I just wanted to start out by introducing this idea to you and talking more about it and saying I was wrong in thinking and ever doubting the Father's love. And I think, and I see this too, that we are angry with ourselves for doubting Father's love. Because deep down we know this is perfect love that we've offended, you know. But what if it's impossible to offend him? What if he, you know, and see, how many scripture verses do you have to reconcile in your mind? How many equations do you need to balance before you come to this conclusion that perfect love and he holds no records of wrongs? Our Father is perfect love, and he holds no records of wrongs. I just paired two scriptures, right? God is love, and his perfect love drives out all fear. And then 1 Corinthians 13 reveals to us, that was 1 John 4, by the way. 1 Corinthians 13 reveals he holds no records of wrongs. Not counting our sins against us, right? Another scripture says. So this is profound. It's a profound revelation and insight into the gospel that I'm embracing. I'm like, yes, I want to know Father's love to this extent, as revealed in Jesus. As revealed in Jesus, he's the incarnation of the Father's heart. Jesus is what the Father has to say about himself. I and the Father are one, right? So if Jesus cares, Father cares more. Yeah, of course. You know, it's not like Jesus is twisting Father's arm to accept us. That's what I'm trying to say here to myself. You know, and I think it will deal with some of this hopelessness that we carry. It will restore hope and the joy of our salvation. I was praying about that this morning because oftentimes, I'll tell you what, I've been raked over the coals with religion and stuff, and so I've gone kind of very anti-religious, and some would say even New Age, whatever that means. I love Jesus. I love the gospel. I'm exploring all the intricacies of the gospel. And I'm not trying to even defend myself, because I love psychology, understanding the human dilemma, understanding the human mind and the human makeup of why we cast and hurl all these accusations, or not accusations. Yeah, there's some of that, but equations that need to be balanced before we can experience intimacy with the Father. We hide behind all of this intellect and just the way the tree of the knowledge of good and evil operates. If you understand the full ramifications of that dualistic reality, right, where Jesus has come to establish a new covenant that's based in the tree of life, that's based in wholeness and in oneness, that trumps all of that. That trumps all the division that happens because, there's lots of parceling out. I mean, just preference. I like, chocolate bar more than broccoli. Like all these judgments we make through life. And that was just a lame example. But it's just like varying degrees of sin. At certain times in history, like dancing was a sin, going to a movies was a sin, smoking was a sin. Like we make up all these things. And all these judgments that we have a consensus about, we all agree, and to a large degree, I'm like, I know I'm getting treading on thin ice here, because the law is a beautiful thing in the fact that it exposes what is love and what isn't. So it has its place, but not in the new covenant, not in telling you how Father's heart beats for you. The law doesn't tell you that. Jesus tells you that. The way of the tree of life. He is the tree of life. So I hope this little intro that's gone on for 7.5 minutes now just helps to just take this with you into this conversation and kind of know where I'm coming from as well. That I do love building bridges with those who are on the fringes of just, hey, we talk about a lot of fun stuff. We talk about chakras and Merkabas and sacred geometry and I am, the I am is having a Daniel experience. We start out with that in this conversation. It's very fun, and I really love this new friend, Aaron. I put out a little thing on my Christian Mystic community page, Facebook page, saying, hey, I'll interview the first person who responds to this. And he was the first person. And I was so delighted. I'm like, what a fun conversation we had that I hope you enjoy.
So I'm coming home. I'm coming home. I'm longing for the longing. I'm longing for a
Yeah, it's just amazing to meet another friend, and I've got a lot of errands in my life, so I'm welcoming one more.
That's awesome.
Errand. So
I've always wondered about the power of names and how they're connected to us.
yeah, that is strange, because people will mistakenly call me David like over and over and over and over again. I'm like, is this like my spirit name? Like, I almost wonder if it's like tied to some sort of spiritual ancestry to King David, because
I wonder.
I have experienced the spirit of King David before, and wow, so that was interesting.
That is interesting.
But yeah, I'd love to hear about your spiritual journey. That's kind of what this is about. Also, in just conversating, just encouraging.
Absolutely. Thank you. I deeply appreciate the opportunity. I don't have many options to talk about my spiritual journey, honestly.
Yeah.
In part, I think, is I don't want to color someone else's journey if that's not where they are either. I don't want my answers to necessarily make sense. I believe we need to find the answers. The answers are in us. And I worry sometimes about the dialogue, unless it's in a place like this where we're coming to this openly. So my spiritual story, I don't know if it's just begin wherever or
Yeah, wherever you feel like it's a good beginning. You don't have to start at like beginning. I
okay.
was born at a very young age. Uh,
Once I was born, actually, I want to. I feel called to begin, since we talked briefly about names, with my name. So my name, my chosen name is Aaron, but actually my legal name is Joseph Michael. And deeper than that, though, the name that my mom chose for me is Isaac Aaron Michael. Um, and this is in part because of a numerology thing. She opened the Bible to my social security and then went to the passage in the page and found, "You shall have a son and you shall name him Isaac." And then I don't know exactly how she did it, but it was guided to her, Isaac Aaron
mm,
Michael. And so to me, I am has always been a deeper truth. It's before I even knew what the I am is, before I understood non-duality in any way. I am has, I don't know. I don't resonate much with these names or this body. um, I resonate with what's watching through this body, but
yeah.
also with the whole happening.
Oh, this is
And
exciting. Exciting talking to someone who's like talking my language here. Cause like I have said this often, like you are an I am having an Aaron experience, entity
yes,
currently known as Aaron, or like you're an aspect of the divine consciousness, an observer, observation
yes,
point of divine consciousness, having an experience. It's amazing.
absolutely.
Continue.
Thank you. I resonate. I love also being able to have those conversations. I don't, like I said, I don't get these conversations much, so it's a little bit exciting for me. But that is absolutely how I see it. And then I've always extrapolated that as, if I am divine consciousness, then everything else is divine consciousness too.
Yeah.
There is no like, I'm not elevated above anyone else. I'm not better than. It's we are all this experience, and I don't know. Part of it, it's challenging for me because it feels kind of like I'm living on two worlds simultaneously. Like I have a deep, 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 deep faith in what I feel is true, that we are all one, that this
Yeah.
experience is seamless. And yet there is a sort of desire for dissolving, for recollection, for union that I don't experience consistently. And there might be, that might just be the ego saying this needs to be a consistent experience. I don't know,
Yeah.
but
Well, I could
I
help you
crave it
out
more.
with some of my uh, experiences in that regard. I mean, I was once kind of having this ascension experience where I thought what I was supposed to do was dissolve into the great all and, experience the fullness of oneness. And as I was on my way up, I'm like, I'm ascending, I thought I'm gonna die. I'm leaving my family behind. I'm like, okay, I have to part ways with everything. Okay. My friends will have to deal with this corpse, because I was with my friends at the time. And like as I went up there, I was realizing, wait a minute, am I usurping your throne in doing this? And then I said, not my will, but yours be done. And then I was greeted by these heavenly host beings, the host of heaven, I call them, like archangel type, beings, who said to me, Daniel, we incarnated as you to have this experience. And see, that's beautiful because it all of a sudden placed value on the experience here, that I'm not meant to just check out, but I'm meant to
Yes.
observe and just be here and just experience and love people while I'm here too. Love the person that you're with in the moment as you go through your life, and it downloaded lots of value into this experience when that happened.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Definitely. I think even as I was kind of getting ready for the session, like the last 20 minutes, um, one of the questions that kept coming to my mind was one of the things I was considering asking is, how do I die? Like, but as I was thinking that, and I get this passion often that arises, is it's like, I don't know, I can look at it from Jung's perspective of like the unconscious talking to the conscious, or God talking through me. But it was like just realizing I'm not called to die, I'm called to live.
Hmm.
And I mean, yes, there is this desire for truth, for oneness, for I don't know. I don't even know for that which is beyond the words, but it's also an understanding that we're meant to live the road. We're meant to walk the road. We're not meant to bypass the road.
Yes, yes, yes. And if I could offer any insight to you, I would say, first of all, it's already a assured thing. It's a sure thing you're going to experience your absolute oneness and, you know, dissolution into the eternal love. That is a sure thing. And in fact, Jesus proves it. The fact that he says, I ascended to the Father and I brought you with me. Like you're seated with Christ in the heavenly realms, you know? Um, you're seated with Christ in the heavenly realms. You're there already. But the gift is that you get to walk out the journey here too. You get to be two places at once.
Yeah.
That's what's beautiful about it. You get to. And so I really, wow, this is amazing. So
I'm glad. Um, yeah, and I think that I also like because it's okay. So for one of me, I don't know. I call it a divine insight. I don't necessarily know if it's divine insight. It's these I see patterns that make sense all across the system.
yes.
Fractals and part of it is that this human experience is a shared human experience. We are all going through fractal variations, reflections of the experience of this experience.
Yeah.
So as someone who derives value from contemplating, as someone who derives value from spirituality, I perceive my path as trying to give this back to the world, trying to show what it means to be truly human, seeking truly human and truly divine. Because I that's that paradox that's not. It's together, and I want to help show what it's like to, I don't know, just walk the path genuinely.
Yeah, wonderful. And good thing we have a Morpheus, in our lives, a guide. And I'm first and foremost, I'm talking about our big brother Yeshua HaMashiach, Jesus, you know, that guide for sure, that's forms our stability, like the rock foundation from which to launch out into the deep as into the mystical realities of God. But then we also have friends among the host of heaven. We have a team that surrounds us and is guiding us along life's journey that led us to connect even tonight, to intersect so that we could be inspired by each other's journeys and encourage one another along this journey and kind of learn something a little deeper.
I
So,
love that. Yes, I do. I think that we are all a gift unto each other. I know that's said somewhere, but I love that quote. We are each a gift to each other, and I've kind of historically, I don't know. There's often this like, again, this is kind of like the idea of living on two lives. I can be frustrated by something and yet also understand that it's unfolding exactly as it's meant to unfold. Like I can be human and acknowledge that those human flaws or are divinely perfect, that they are the relative is the absolute. They are not separate. But part of that is that it's said that when the student's ready, the teacher appears. I haven't had a teacher in the conventional sense of the sage with the robes, but I have always felt like everyone in life is a teacher. My teacher is a teacher of every face. um, I learn lessons from everyone, but also from small things, from the way that I've learned valuable things from the way the tree lets go of the leaves. Like that to me was a teacher in that moment, and a presence that was as real as I am, for sure.
wow. And I concur. It's beautiful. I think that even the divine guidance will lead you along. You just keep your eyes open. Hey, pay attention. You're in class right now. This is your
Yes.
teacher right before you. Whether it be a difficult thing or some sort of, dropping some revelation insight, some challenge your way. Oh yes, people are going to challenge you. That's your greatest teacher right there. Um,
Yeah.
so it's good. And leading us to what end? And really we're being formed into the likeness of the Son. The greatest love story ever told is this relationship between Father and Son, loving Heavenly Papa and the Son, in whom all things consist. Like all of creation comes out of the Son, and is equal to the Son. It is the Son. All of
Mhm.
creation is the
Is
Son,
the Son.
and then it's the Father, the one source, the first divine essence that's, they like, and it's almost like we get to trade off roles too. We get to sometimes be the Father and then we're the Son, and it might happen 20 times in a single conversation,
Yes. Yes, absolutely. I thought about there's a bunch of poetry actually that comes to mind because to me, like when I write poetry, it's not actually me writing poetry. The poetry, what's being written is what needs to be said through me. And I've always had this really weird feeling that just sounds completely insane, not in spiritual circles, but I sometimes I feel very young, sometimes I feel very old. Like
Mm,
I feel like the youngest, newest, most recently born, most naive, most pure-hearted child, and like the presence of absolutely everything that is utterly timeless and is inundating and imbibing everything. Like those two, they're not separate. I feel them both. And
yes. Yeah. Yeah. And I would describe even like, yeah, the father and son relationship. That's it right there. What you just described is like this ancient of days thing with this, like, I'm an eternal child and this eternal youth of discovery and awareness. And God has to keep that alive. He can never let go of that. And this is
yes,
why we can learn so much from children too, and the way they see the world.
yes,
And it brings us back to the Father. They have so much to teach us. They're our greatest teachers. My friend says that when he comes over, and I have 3 kids. He's like, I learned so much from your kids when they said this, and it just moved me to tears. And so that's
I
good.
love that. Yes, absolutely.
Uh,
Um,
how Jesus
it,
said too, like we must become like little children to enter the kingdom. It's like he's talking about he's not trying to shut anybody out in saying this. He's just like, come on, get childlike, open
yeah,
your eyes with wonder, see the world like you were blind from birth, and all of a sudden your eyes are open. My little girl was reading a story about that, about a boy who born blind, and then his eyes were opened, and it's just like
mm,
seeing the world all fresh through his eyes. She teared up because it was like, wow, this is so beautiful. It is just a restoration of our childlikeness and healing of all the jadedness that life has brought us, all that hell has brought us.
yes, yes,
Yeah. As you're here to be a presence in a form of Hades. Let's be honest. This this is a dark realm. This is not, you know,
yeah.
higher plane, but it's I call it baby boot camp though. That
I
we
love that.
we grow so quickly in this realm, in this reality.
We do,
Um,
and I think sometimes. I mean, I definitely, on the relative level, I worry sometimes about all the pain in the world, the climate change, the horrible things that are happening, and I also think that they have purpose. That we are. It is happening for a purpose, and it's interesting again in myself because I only ever see the duality through my own lens of reflection, but I see duality on every level. I see the courage and the fear. I see how it's so easy for me to turn away, being human, to turn away from the fears of climate change and turn off the news and stuff. But and to think and in reflection to judge myself because the self judge is the judge. The
yeah.
adversary is the judge inside us. The
Mm.
sense that we should be different from the way life is unfolding, and I can judge myself, but I am also aware on some level that if I were able to choose my life beforehand, if I were able to choose to some degree how I would be reincarnated, I would absolutely want to go into the dark worlds, into the places that needed me. I
Yeah.
would want to go. I wouldn't need to be in the higher realms. I would be in the realms where I can make a little higher, that I can make a little better.
Exactly. Yes. And that is sharing in the heart of the Father. That's sharing in the heart of Jesus. That's fellowship of his sufferings too, because we end up suffering when we join him in the darker realms. And it is all about reconciliation, restoration of all these beings who view themselves as dark, their inner judge, their Satan,
Yes.
condemning them, and we're releasing them from that judgment because Jesus died on this cross, and set the world right, and he became sin. I've been exploring that concept for the last 6 months or so. Just like
Interesting.
Jesus became sin, you know?
Hmm.
And it,
That
and
is a really interesting.
struck me on so many levels. Like I, review the tape. It wasn't me who did it. Jesus did it. And Jesus is confessing to his Father on my behalf. He's like, God, I'm so sorry that I did that.
That is fascinating. That word choice, wow, that does hit something deep. It's like, because I mean the sin we can see, the sin, the stuff that well, I mean, kind of, we judge ourselves when we're aware of what we perceive as sin. We perceive what we can perceive our flaws, or what our perceived flaws, and then to state that that too is of Jesus, is of divine. I think that is so important, because so often I think we've kind of got like these, well, we've got multiple sides, but two sides. Like, we've got these people who spiritually bypass and like just say that, they might, I don't know. I'm scared of casting in judgment. I'm not casting judgment,
Yeah.
because I think that even them, they are divine. Even the relative sins are divine.
Yeah.
And I think that that's the hard part with this. But we have people on one hand who might, relatively speaking, spiritually bypass in terms of whether just paying their tithes and not actually trying to live the life, or, I mean, he might even just say like God is everything, but then not actually try to make the world a better place. And on the other hand, we have people who are hyper analytical. And I had a point with this. I'm sorry, my mind is jumping a little bit.
That's okay. People are hyper analytical. Just roll with that,
Yes.
and just keep going.
I think that I perceive. Okay, so one of the things that's interesting to me is called spiral dynamics. It's one specific modality. I don't know if you've heard of it. It's a means of a map for measuring human development. And part of this, for example, on this map, is you kind of yes and the previous model. You have to, the integration does not mean rejecting the previous model. It means taking it and building off of it. So at one point throughout history, we were in what would be called the blue model, the authoritarian absolutism model, order, basically law and order, the church, which had its value, it had its place, it has its place, it is present tense. We have our place for unfolding. However, I think it's important to keep moving forward. And so it is possible, like in regards to this, I guess what I'm trying to say with this is the blue was kind of law and order absolutist. And then after that, there was what's called the orange, which is the scientific model, the analytical model. So often in our world today, we have the atheists rejecting Christianity in terms of looking into materialism, or in terms of looking into things that don't make analytical sense. And I think that where a lot of the problem is that a lot of our modern Christianity is rejecting of the materialism, rejecting of the analysis, rejecting of the scientific model. But I believe that the scientific model, the analysis, the atheists are themselves divine, are made of divine nature and playing a divine role.
Yes.
And that we need to integrate that too and move into the next stage. And so I guess I have this struggle a little bit with, I'm trying to reconcile the absolutism on one hand, the sort of counterculture atheism on the other, or materialistic atheism on the other hand, with the wholeness that I believe I deeply see how these are parts of the same whole. And that's, I don't know.
Well, indeed they are, and honestly, C. Baxter Kruger is one man who, I don't know if you've heard the name, but he's friends with William Paul Young and Brad Jerzak, and they do conferences together. And one of the things he points out is when he meets anybody, he recognizes their partnership in the divine play with whatever they're into. You're into saving plants in the Amazon that you feel are going to go extinct, or like what you can do with them, or whatever your passion is. You're partnering with God in whatever your passion is.
Absolutely.
Of course, I'm thinking like, well, what if your passion is like something that's kind of nasty and bad and whatever, you know? But okay, I'm just putting that aside. But yeah, that we can partner with God in like you know, poetry. Oh my gosh,
Mhm.
yes. I want to read your poetry, dude. Can you send me some of your poetry?
I will,
No,
absolutely.
yeah, and I write songs, and it's been a long time since I've written a song, you know, and it's kind of sad that that part of me has been starving for so long, you know,
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
or whatever else. Just
Perhaps this is a call
releasing the
for that part.
play, you know, releasing the
Yes.
play of, hey, you're part of a play, play your role, like
Play
you
the play.
play the
Yeah.
play. So,
Yes. I love that. I would love to hear some of your music too. And I'm sure that when you feel called to, it will be time to pull that pen up again and start writing.
yes, yeah, I'm actually having some friends coming over tonight, and we're gonna do a little bit of recording and just hang out. I mean, I love hanging out with friends, you know, and just
Hmm.
having conversations and shooting the breeze like we're doing, you know, and talking about deep things. I was really amazed and surprised at how deep we went. Like, oh yes, you know, the I am is having an Aaron experience, you know, and just diving deep into that. I mean, I'd love to talk about sacred geometry. I love that, you know, just for what that can teach us as well.
Okay,
I
I'm
didn't know
also
about
very
that.
interested in that. I have not looked. I've been starting. I'm curious about sacred geometry because again, I see patterns, and sacred geometry is part of that patterns.
Yeah, you
I'm
mentioned that
curious
earlier.
about um, specifically. I understand like there's the okay. So I'm interested. One of the other thing I'm interested in is Enneagram, which I think actually is connected to Christianity. But in the Enneagram, there's two specific aspects. Well, there's actually three aspects that relate to sacred geometry. So the Enneagram is a circle, a wholeness, and then it's got the law of three, and then it's got the law of seven. Um,
Mm.
and so the law of seven is the perpetual infinite growth. The law of three is everything is made of this trinity, this triad of forces. And the Enneagram, it speaks of the reconciliation, the reconciling force, the active force, and the receiving force. Um, and those three make the one. And so within me, I am on the Enneagram of nine, in Enneagram nine. And so I'm really curious about how all of this just plays together in terms of the sacred geometry with it. And I don't understand why the three, just the three, the number of the three and the multiplications of the three seems so important to me. And
Oh
then
yeah.
also one equals zero. I don't know how, but some reason that just I see one and zero and it's like the same. And infinity is zero is one. And I don't know,
Mm,
but
wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Yeah, keep rolling with that. I think you're onto something and you've got some insights. I remember seeing this video about the numbers 369 and all the rest of them formed like this infinite loop thing. And then the
Mhm.
nine was the deciding factor of which side it was flipping to or something weird. I don't know. I don't really know what that's all about, but I find it fascinating. One thing I was looking into recently, and I don't know too much about it yet, but the Merkaba symbol, you know, and
Mm.
even Merkaba mysticism. I'm just reading it here on, ooh, interesting. I'm reading it on, I'm just reading a little bit on
Of course.
Merkaba mysticism is a school of early Jewish mysticism, 100 BC to 1000 CE, Common Era, centered on visions such as those found in the book of Ezekiel, chapter 1, which is really
Mm.
fascinating. The whole wheel within the wheel, which is really the toroidal field of the human spirit. If you get into it, like the wheel of being a tornado, and then it's inside of the wheel that kind of, you know, goes out and then channels through. It's like that's your human spirit. That's the spirit of God. That's we're made in His
Interesting.
image, you know. And then there's the seven chakras too. You know, it's like,
Yes, yeah.
wow, that's cool. So the Merkaba is a symbol of like a three-dimensional, obviously, and it goes beyond that. It goes beyond three dimensions even, but a pyramid intersecting with another pyramid, one facing down, one facing up, and it's, you know, it's just amazing. There's a lot to
Interesting.
learn from that. Wow. So, and it's about our divine union with God. And you know, you talked about the 7 points. It's like I think there are 7 points on that if you counted the center as a
Mm,
point of the Merkaba or something like
that's
that. I don't
interesting.
know. But it's like the Star of David thing is like the symbol, the two-dimensional symbol of it. But
Okay, this is really interesting. Um, I wonder what the pyramid represents then. I mean, I definitely I connected that personally to divine union, to the sky, the self and the other, above and below becoming one. And I guess it's, I don't know. I have had experiences to varying degrees of, mystical experiences. I don't think I've had what would be like a full-blown Kinsho experience, a full-blown unitive experience.
Mm-hmm.
But it seems to me that, like, I mean, there is only the one. There is the one, and then there is the illusion of many. So
Yeah.
I guess I'm wondering in the Merkaba, when it is the idea of the pyramids merging together, is there like a sense of an other consciousness that actually merges with our consciousness, or like,
Yeah, I don't know about that, or if it's ever been separate. You know what I mean?
right? Yeah,
Like
exactly.
we're
Yeah,
the ones who envision it as ever separate, that join
right.
together.
The
It's like, what if
duality
it's,
is in my lens. Yes.
yeah, what if it's always just been oneness, and
Hmm.
duality is just a pigment of your imagination that you're playing with right now because you think it's fun. And honestly, yes, I think that our ego has to. Like, I'm married to my wife. She's
Hmm.
not everyone's wife. We share
Right.
intimacies that it shouldn't
Right.
be shared with the whole
Shared with just anyone.
world.
Right. Of
You
course.
know,
Of course.
like that's what our ego does. And it's like, but on a whole nother level, it's like it's symbolic of something that we all share in our oneness with God, our divine union, when we all meld with each other's experiences, and none of it means anything as far as separateness anymore, and it's all just learning and
Hmm.
experience, and the Akashic records is what I'm talking about. The living Akashic records, because I'm a volume of the Akashic records right here, and
Right.
you're a volume of it, and we upload our consciousness to the mainframe of the divine, and it's like it's sorted out, and where it's perfectly put in order to serve everyone, still having an egoic experience. you know like I was really tired today, and I took a nap, and I woke up just so groggy, and I'm like, why am I feeling like I just got run over by a truck? And I'm thinking to myself, well, Daniel, maybe you were lending your inner chi to someone else who needed it,
Hmm.
somewhere around the planet, and even that nap was divine. That was a divine nap, and you were on mission. You just went and did something.
Yes, yes. I mean, I do believe that. I absolutely see that. I think that a lot of, I mean, I honestly, I think all of our flaws are the same way. And like, this can get into, okay, so like, if I had a friend who had like lost a child or something, in the moment, I wouldn't tell them, oh, it's divine purpose or anything, because that's not helping them. It's not good for them. So I think that it's challenging with myself. I catch myself, like you were catching yourself a minute ago. I catch myself in terms of fears of minimizing people's pain, to tell them that all of their hardship and all of their troubles are divine, although I do believe it's true. Um, and I don't know. I guess it's kind of a matter of, I guess, it's what's, to some degree it's what's helpful, and to some degree it's even the realization that maybe there's a time and place to talk about divinity is itself divine, I suppose.
Mm,
But I don't know. I guess that's also part of the human struggle for myself, my own relative humanity, in terms of
yeah.
being afraid of judge to some degree or whatnot. So
Yeah,
there's layers to everything.
being afraid of what? Of judgment?
Of being judged, but also
Okay.
I guess it's even more. Yeah, I mean, it is to some degree that, because I don't think that understanding oneness is super commonplace right now, but my own inner self, my inner voice tells me that I want to work through that, because I want to be able to, or I feel a calling to do what is right for me, even if it is placing me into uncomfortable positions. Um, as an Enneagram 9, my ego framework hates conflict. I'm a
Mm.
conflict avoidant ego. Um,
Yeah, I
however,
think I
my
am too. And I think here I discovered part of the reason why. If
hmm,
anybody ever has a problem with you, it's like you take that on as your identity. Like, you're saying I'm bad. And my wife, she helped me the other night so much, and I've been sharing this ever since. She said, when I talked to when our son, 4 years old, you hit you hit your sister, you punched and kicked her, and that was bad, but you are not bad. You are not. And that meant the world to me, because I was receiving that message like, Daniel, you've done a lot of bad stuff in your life,
Mm-hmm.
but you are not bad.
Mm-hmm.
And
I
then
absolutely.
so being able to have the freedom of like confessing our sins, basically confessing our sins is agreeing with what God says about it. Like that wasn't love. That didn't serve love, that action, that
Right.
thought.
Yes. Yes.
And just agreeing with God about it and releasing it, like the tree releasing the leaf, one of our
Yeah.
teachers there.
Good cut rollback around there.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I 100% resonate with that. Brene Brown, who's a shame researcher, she differentiates between guilt and shame. Guilt is I did something bad. Shame is I am bad. And
Mhm.
guilt can serve us. Shame never serves us,
Yeah,
basically.
shame destroys us. I lived under shame for so many years. It led to the deepest, darkest despair that I wouldn't wish on my worst enemy. And I don't have any enemies, because I love my enemies and bless
Mm-hmm.
those who curse me. And
Mm-hmm.
know, you're not allowed to be my enemy. You're my friend who just doesn't know it yet. Because
Absolutely.
you too are the light of the world, and you're another aspect of me that I embrace and love and forgive.
Absolutely. I resonate with that completely. And I once spoke to a shaman, actually, because I like connecting to everyone from all walks of life. As you said, I believe
Mm,
every walk of life is serving the divine. And he said that in his field, most often those who are called to heal need to heal the kernel of light inside themselves. That's what they're truly called to heal, is to heal ourselves. Um, and in many ways, I personally resonate with this. I kind of, when I was young, I used to want to take the weight off of God's shoulders.
mhm.
I wanted God to feel like God was not alone. I,
Yeah,
I,
that's lovely. Actually, I really like that. I dig that.
thank you. Um, I used to ask God to put some of God, like some of the weight on my shoulders,
Yeah,
so I could carry it for
yeah,
God. And
that's
in
amazing.
a
That's
way, I think that's exactly what it has happened. But
Yes. I think that we're all here to do that to some, that's why we came, was to bear one another's burdens and so fulfill the law of Christ, which is love. This is
yes,
what we do for one another. And it's not for just one another, it's for aspects of God. It's saving God. It's God saving God is what's happening.
yes, yes, absolutely.
Yeah. And the great physician is healing himself, That's a
Yes, yes, yes.
old.
That's actually a line that I really resonate with. Physician, heal thyself. I don't really know what that's from. I was actually think it's from some
Yeah, and
show,
so
but
so what does
yeah.
Aaron carry? Like, I think that you're connected to generations, like spiritual ancestry, some of which haven't come home yet, and you get to be like a dread champion, getting up under them to bring them home. You're like saying, I'm not coming until they come with me, kind of thing.
Yes, yes, absolutely. That is exactly it. I seek enlightenment, but not for the sake of myself. I cannot go home unless I can take everyone with me. I cannot win if someone else has to lose.
And that's the heart of Jesus. That is the heart of Jesus. I confirm that in you, because that's what he says. He's like, Father, if you can't accept them, then you can't accept me. Like he puts it that way, because he became their
Yes,
sin, you know, and he sits with them in hell, like that Robin Williams film, What Dreams May Come. He goes to his wife, and just he's there until she comes around, you know,
yes.
and he doesn't leave. He never leaves. He says, "I'll never leave you. I'll never forsake you." Isn't that beautiful?
That is beautiful. Thank you.
Yeah, I love it.
Um, you asked what does Aaron hold? I love that question because I hold a lot of trauma that's obviously not mine. I have the response of trauma that's not mine.
Yes. Yeah. I feel that, dude. I resonate with that, because oh my goodness. Yeah. We're here on mission. All of heaven, really, the hosts of heaven, they told me this. They said, we're here on mission to rescue the lost and fallen. All of them. All of them. You know, and the fact that Jesus rose again from the dead and ascended to the Father proves ultimate reconciliation. You know, that he left no one behind. He's the perfect lifeguard. He doesn't let any of his kids drown, you know?
Yes.
So he's playing out in real time too, you know, in all of
I've thrown
us.
myself into the waters to see if he would catch me, and I have been caught. So
Mm.
yes, absolutely. And it kind of boils down to, again, there's this quote from, I think, Ken Wilber. He said something like, everything is absolutely perfect, and we have to do everything that we can. And I really like that. I think that we are on the path, and we are walking the path, and the path is going exactly as it's meant to go, through the dark lands. The dark lands are the path, and we absolutely have to do everything that we can.
Yeah, exactly. I concur. So let's get off our butts. I don't know. I think a lot of people struggle with motivation for doing all that
Yes.
we can. And where does that come from? I mean, the scripture says, prepare your minds for action, you know, and then and I think that it only comes really, and I still have to learn this more myself. Like, I'm not claiming that I own this, but I think it comes through just receiving the love of the Father that he has for us, the love of Jesus that he has for us, and being so rooted and grounded in that love. And there's like that constant wellspring of energy and supply and power to you know, and inspiration, you know, and all of heaven like dropping their ideas. Like, what if that was your mind? Like, all of heaven just like, oh, you know, here's a perfect ideas for songs, you know, and whatever else, poetry and everything that we could do to make this world better. Like, you know, Tesla or something receiving a download from heaven about, you know, wireless energy and free energy for the whole world. You know.
Yes, absolutely. And I don't know. I have hope.
Yeah.
I do have hope. But I also think that it's part of my divine purpose to have hope. Because I don't reject the shadows. I don't reject the darkness. I look in the darkness and tell the darkness there is hope. I mean, there's
Yes.
really.
Oh my gosh, kindred spirit. I do the same thing. Yeah.
Yes.
Very nice.
And I think that, you know, you mentioned that battery. Where does it that charges us, that motivates us? And this, again, I experience this duality because I think that I am in many ways the heart of humanity. And I think that often we are unmotivated because we're looking for the wrong types of motivation. We're looking for purely materialistic motivation because that's what we culturally have been ingrained to think is going to satisfy us. But materialistic motivation will never bring holism. It will not make us whole to get a bigger paycheck, to get that next car. And yet, even saying that, even believing that, being a minimalist, I still like, I want to be able to make smoothies. I like having a blending machine. I like having a toaster. Like, there's still a consume element in me, you know, a relative humanity. And I think that a lot of us are relatively lost, although I think that lost might even be a hard word because I think that relatively lost is the divine finding itself. But we are relatively lost, and because we have never or not often experienced that true battery, that unconditional love that we can find in God through a friend, through a cat, through a dog, through a baby. I mean, and just once you experience that, once you for firsthand experience something that completely washes away everything that's ever come before, I mean, then you can really be alive. But so much of us are often just kind of in our ego patterns. And I think we're in a stage of waking up. I think we're waking up right now.
Yay. Welcome to your awakening. That's kind of my tagline for my show too. Welcome to your awakening.
I love that.
And you're talking. I wanted to encourage you with a scripture that's coming to mind, and it's God rewards those who diligently seek Him. You know, and it's almost like I have sought after some spiritual experiences just for fun because we get to do
Yeah,
that. I was
yeah.
like, oh, reading about these people having out of body experiences.
Mhm. That's how it started for
Oh,
me. Yeah.
yeah, really? I would love to hear
Yeah.
about your story, by the way.
Okay.
And so I was researching this. I'm like, Jesus, can I have an out of body experience? And I went to bed that night, and my little girl just out of the blue just prayed for me for my awakening. She's like, and I pray that my papa would have an awakening. You know, like I'm like, whoa, this is like a divine prayer, like right now. Like she's
Mhm.
heaven's channeling her, you know, to pray this for me. And that night I had my first like out of body experience where I'm like, you know, what, whoa, float up to the ceiling, float around, whoa. What's going
Mhm.
that was pretty awesome. And but see, this is what I'm talking about. If you put like your mind, your intention, give it your attention and intention, and just knock on those doors. And it's about a persistence too, because Jesus says, knock
Yes.
and keep on knocking, and the door will be open to you. There's the promise: seek and keep on seeking. That's what's implied in the Greek
Seek,
there.
keep on seeking.
Keep on
Yes.
seeking. Persistence is implied because what is persistence doing for you? It's creating the capacity within your own soul to receive the gift of whatever that is. You know, instead of like, oh, that came easy. You know, it's a kind of like,
It's not supposed to be easy.
yeah, it's not supposed to be easy. It's like it's playing hard to get a little bit. So like, do you really want it? First of all, it's asking you that. Do you really want it? And then appreciating once you do get it. You know, like I'm still gonna pursue and ask Jesus about, you know, spirit travel. I still want to do that. I still want to experience more of that because it's been brilliant whenever I have, you know, kind of fun and stuff. And he's not about squashing our fun. He's like,
Right.
play,
Right.
play. So that's what's cool about it. So I wanted to encourage you with that. God
Thank you.
rewards those who diligently seek Him. Ask and keep on asking. Seek and keep on seeking. Knock and keep on knocking. And it'll be open to you. You'll have it. You'll gain it through the perseverance that actually forms the character within you to be able to receive those gifts well and to steward them well. And sometimes the more time that goes by of resistance, of Him saying, no, not yet, not yet, not yet, not yet, not, that's just building this capacity within you until boom. And you're like, whoa, you're really flowing in that gift. Like that's why this scripture says, earnestly desire spiritual gifts. Well, there's gifts of healing, there's gifts of words of knowledge. That means that you're tuned into a host of heaven and the intel they have to bless somebody that's standing before you. That's really cool. Words of prophecy, you're tapped into the host of heaven, into Father's heart, you know, channeling that. You're a medium for heaven, right? A heavenly medium. And I want that. I'm like, I have flowed in that, and it's fun. It's really cool, you know. And I'm like, we could, you know, we could always grow in these areas, and if we just put some pursuit into it and persistence. So, just wanted to bless you with that.
I appreciate that blessing from my heart. Absolutely.
Yeah, you're valuable to your papa. He loves you. I can see it all over you. He loves you. You share in Jesus' heart for this world and for the lost and fallen. You know what I'm talking about. All the trauma that you carry that wasn't yours. I have it too. I get you. I understand. And we're like, we care about those demons. We care about the demons. What nobody else does. They're
And
sending
it's
them
like,
off to hell, and I'm like, no, that's like our
hold it
confused.
closer. Yes. It's the very thing that we're rejecting is the very thing that needs to be held and heard the most. That's
Yeah,
the
and healed.
deepest,
Yeah.
biggest friend. It's what needs to be healed the most. I wrote the other day to someone, darkest night breeds deepest love, and I really believe that.
Hmm.
Um, and I am absolutely burning. And in the East, the seeking it creates it's called I Ching, the fire, the frustration of seeking.
Hmm.
The seeking burns in me. Because at this point it has its own inertia. I can't stop seeking. The seeking will not stop.
Yeah.
So, I mean, and it's either going to go there, or it's going to continue for the rest of my life, and I will genuinely seek for the rest of my life. But
Good. Keep your eyes open. You're being guided and taught every day and
I
led.
definitely feel that through this, especially.
Good.
Is there a normal time frame that you try to have for your calls? I don't know if about that.
Oh, usually an hour, just because I suppose when people see a video that's over an hour, to like, it's too much time.
That's fair.
This is
Yeah.
actually a really good conversation now. I'm going to encourage a lot of people to watch it because
Good.
this is nice. Nice connecting with you.
Likewise, I definitely hope to be in these circles more. I would love to. I don't know how much you. So I haven't actually researched specifically into Christian mysticism too much. I
Okay.
feel more like I'm being lived, but I am curious about cataphatic and apophatic mysticism. If you know specifically about those,
No, I don't.
I don't know. That's okay. So it's to some degree, it's like the denying all the false self versus affirming all as true self. So one form of mysticism is self-inquiry, neti, rejecting this is not me, not me, not me, not me, not me, not me. This thought process is not me. This, and then it kind of leaves what's true is one thought of kind of reaching the divine.
Yeah. And
And
that
then
sounds
another one is
lonely.
the
I actually affirm the other, even though it's like, hey, we're going into some dark realms sometimes. We're exploring some dark concepts sometimes. It's okay. We're exploring
yes,
the redemption that Jesus has wrought for all the cosmos, you know. So
yes, and I think that's the type of mysticism I personally resonate with is all affirming everything is the
yes.
divine, everything is the self.
Yes. Yeah, I was going to tell you earlier. I don't know why this sprang to mind, but I'll share it now. I was out on a walk one time near the shoreline of Lake Michigan and walking through some trees on a trail, and God spoke to me and said, "Daniel, look around." I'm like, "Okay, this is all you." And I was like, "Whoa." So even when I had a vision a year and a half ago, um, June of 2019. Actually, it was May. It's coming out. It's almost anyway. So, but I had this vision, and I met Jesus face to face, and then he introduced me to the host of heaven. And when I saw them, all this host of heaven, my first initial response to them was, "Oh, it's me."
I love
Oh, it's me. And I saw that I was seeing just a part of it that I'm like relationally connected to. Like these were my ancestors that I had special kinship to, but that they had kinship with other, with other beings. It was like this whole, if you were to imagine each one of us is a cell in the body of God, but these
Yes,
cells are
yes,
connected to tissues. And so you are that tissue too. And that
yes.
tissue is actually like an archangel. See? And so then this archangel has relationships with other archangels, other tissues, to where it's like this is the body of heaven, and
Mhm.
it's um, many collective consciousnesses, which is really forms one whole in the end. And so you could
Interesting.
connect to any life throughout the body of God, anywhere in the cosmos that's ever existed or ever will exist is there. And it's like, and it's in this outside of time and space realm, because I was seeing beings that were living in the 16th century in Japan, or or in other universes on other planets. This was all made known to me as I'm beholding them, all their portals to their own matrix.
Yes.
Yeah, so it was really brilliant. I pray for a revelation like that for you too, Aaron, and your seeking that
Thank you.
your mind and your consciousness would just expand to embrace all that God has for you.
Thank you. Um, this has been an amazing conversation. I'm so glad that you picked me for this.
Yeah, you picked you.
That's fair. I picked me. That's true. On that last note that you said, to talk briefly about past lives.
Yes.
Sorry, I don't know how that's loud.
Let's do that.
Um,
Let's talk about past lives.
I haven't had I don't have profound past life regression experiences, but I do have a sort of, I don't know how to describe this. Sometimes when someone's telling me about something, I feel like I've lived it, like I was there, like I was it. And so for me, I've always, I don't see myself with, I don't see particular past lives. It's more like I feel like I am every life.
Yeah.
And it's all happening now. Like it's not in the
Wow.
past. The past
Yeah.
is a concept. It's like I am the smallest edge of this infinitely deep ocean. I don't know. And it's all there right now.
Yeah. What you just described is the best way to describe reincarnation and past lives. It's actually the one having all these experiences at once, but like, how could you handle that? How could you make sense of all that? You know? And so we parcel it out and, make sense of it. And we're allowed to, because it's fun for us as the kids to play that way.
Right. Right. And I think that's something that I really think that we need to hear. A lot of the spiritual seekers need to hear. It's fun. It's a game. We're
Yeah,
playing.
it's a game. It's a fun game. It's not just a we're gonna mind F you game. Yeah. And laugh at you like, haha, look at this guy. Yeah. They do think we're funny though. Like I once had this experience where like I ascended into like the archangel type being, and
Mhm.
and looking down at humans like and how they're all scared of each other and scared all the time. That's like these babies are in the
Play.
and they're like turning to another baby and they're like, I'm scared. And then they're like, I'm scared too because you're scared. And then they're like, I'm scared more because you're scared that I'm scared. And they're just laughing at us like you kids are so silly, and really when we all come to it though, perfect love driving out all fear, and Jesus wiping away every tear from our eyes. So there's no trauma that won't be held in the, you know, until healed.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. And I mean, I think that's the point, arguably, of the trauma. When we're beating ourselves up, when we're spinning in our circles, when the demon is closest to us, that is because that is what needs to be healed, is closest to the surface. It's
Yes.
it's it's needs to be
Mm.
brought into the light of awareness, because Jesus's light is right here. It's right here, right here, right now.
Yeah. I hear ya. So that's pretty cool. Yeah, and the Lord allows whatever, in our lives because He knows that's what's best for us and for them too. Interesting.
Yes.
That we are ministers to the evil spirits. Just like it talks about Jesus preaching to evil spirits, we get to every day. We get to, when they come around, and we fall and we get back up because Jesus picked us up and dust us off and is there comforting us. They witness all this and they're like, wow, I want healing too. That's why a table is prepared before them, before us in the presence of our enemies, so that our enemies can look at the kindness of God and be like, I want to come to the table too. And we're like, come, you're welcome. You're welcome to the table. The Spirit and the bride say, come. The Spirit and the bride say, come to the table, and all they need to do is like recognize the fact that Jesus did die for their sins and that they're not sin anymore. They are love at their core. That Christ has pulled it off. He planted the seed of the Christ life and light within the very heart of darkness, within every being that cannot fail. It's unfailing love. Cannot fail to grow and to blossom and become the Son. Christ
So
formed
it
in us.
seems we really truly are in a time of transformation, although I suppose we always have been.
Yes. And it's like that's like the scripture says, line upon line, precept upon precept, and waves and stages and seasons, like we're kind of in a season now that is a transition. It's like once every 50 years, kind of a transition, awakening period. You know, if you trace back every 50 years, there's something big that happens, and a huge shift forward in the human consciousness evolution, you know, forward. So, Aaron, I want to talk to you again. So we'll have to do this again sometime. And
That sounds great.
I'm pleased to have made a new friend, and we'll stay in touch.
Do you think it would be relevant to end with a poem?
Oh, absolutely. Please.
Okay. I actually had one. I don't know how horrible we are on time, but okay, here we go. Some sages worship paradox, as though some symbol for the locks could itself contain the key, as though something seeks to be free. Dear love, should you ask what you're made of, you're not just a painter, but the paint itself. You're the essence of wealth. You are the meaning beneath the act. You are the growth in lack of tact, not just the roots, but the whole tree, not just the seer, but what's to see. You're not just the seeker, but the sought, for nothing free is ever bought. You are the desire and its fire and the shadows that they cast, every broken whisper of your past. All the stones you can't unring build the base of a brighter spring. Dearest friend, you are the music and the wind, both the peaceful flight and the call to fight. Dearest friend, you knew no beginning and you know no end. You are the shadow, you are the light. You're the experience of day and night. You're where the soul meets the star. All that is where you are.
It goes without saying, that was beautiful. That was so deep and so amazing, and right up the alley of everything we're talking about too. Expresses your heart, and I would encourage you, never stop writing those poems,
Thank you.
dude. It's beautiful.
Okay, until next time then.
Yes.
Namaste.
Namaste.